Hello everybody and welcome back to Vehicles of Warthunder. In this episode we are going to be touching on our first unique Chinese vehicle. I say unique because their reserve vehicles are copy-pastes of other countries. I do not recall which countries off the top of my head. I believe it is Soviet and British, if I recall correctly, but I might be misremembering on that. So yes, we're going to be skipping their reserve vehicles when it comes to this and jumping straight to their first unique fighter, which is the Curtiss-Wright CW-21. Nothing else to say here, so let's go ahead and jump into the design and the history of the vehicle, or well, rather the aircraft. In 1938, George A. Page, the head of the St. Louis Airplane Division of the Curtiss-Wright Corporation, developed a fighter aircraft based on the two-seater civil utility aircraft, the Model 19, which was designed by Carl W. Scott. Page's idea for the aircraft was for it to be a lightweight fighter interceptor with as high a rate of climb as was possible at the time to allow the aircraft to attack bomber formations with minimal warning. This idea also called for the aircraft to use this superior rate of climb to escape if it ever ran into fighter opposition rather than turning to dogfight. This was in direct contradiction, however, to the United States Army Air Corps' requirements for fighters, which stressed low-level performance. This wasn't an issue for Page, however, because he had envisioned this fighter as being an export design. A team led by Chief Engineer Willis Wells would carry out the detailed designs for the new fighter called Model 21 or CW-21. These designs called for a single-seat, all-metal, cantilever low-wing monoplane with retractable tail-wing landing gear. The main wheels would retract rearwards into fairings under the wing. The fuselage was to use a semi-monocoque, probably mispronounced that, structure that tapered sharply behind the cockpit. To power this aircraft and give it a great rate of climb, it was decided to use the 1,000 horsepower Wright R1820 G5 9-cylinder air-cooled radial engine. As for firepower, the aircraft was designed to use some combination of 7.62s and 12.7mm machine guns. When the aircraft made its first flight on September 22, 1938, it was equipped with one 7.62mm and one 12.7mm in the engine cowling. Customers, however, could choose to up the firepower to two 7.62mm and two 12.7mm. The guns would be mounted in the nose and synchronized to fire through the propeller. This limited the rate of fire, but decreased the weight on the wings. The aircraft was also fitted with no armor or fuel tank protection in an effort to save weight and improve performance. When the aircraft made its first flight, it had a civil experimental registration of NX 19431. And although the aircraft was not commissioned by the United States military, it made its test flight at Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio. The United States Army Air Corps immediately rejected the aircraft, with one officer stating that it took a genius to land it. Now for the operational history. The prototype for the CW-21 would eventually be delivered to China for the National Chinese Air Force to evaluate. They would be impressed by the aircraft's performance and would start negotiations to purchase some. While the negotiations were ongoing, the CW-21 prototype would fly combat missions against Japanese bombers attacking Chunking, with the test pilot Bob Fossel claiming a Fiat BR-20 bomber shot down on April 4, 1939. A month later, in May 1939, a contract would be signed, and the Republic of China would receive the prototype and 3 complete aircraft built by Curtiss, as well as kits for 27 more aircraft. The assembly of these kits would be undertaken by the Central Aircraft Manufacturing Company, CAMCO, at Lo Wing, near the China-Burma border. These models would be equipped with the increased fire model that had two 12.7mm and two 7.62mm machine guns. A year later, in May 1940, the 3 Curtiss-built aircraft would be shipped to China and would eventually be handed over to the first American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, who had intended to use the aircraft to shoot down high-flying Japanese reconnaissance aircraft. These would end up crashing and being destroyed, however, due to poor visibility on a flight from Rangoon to Kunming on December 23, 1941. As for the 27 kits that would be assembled by CAMCO, none would be completed before CAMCO was forced to evacuate its low-wing factory to India in 1942 due to advancing Japanese forces. In the meantime, Curtiss would develop an improved version of the aircraft designated as the CW-21B. The main difference were a new undercarriage with inward retracting main wheels and a semi-retractable tail wheel that had been developed for the Curtiss-Wright CW-23 armed trainer. Other changes would include hydraulically operated flaps. While this model would be heavier than the base model, the CW-21B was 18 miles per hour faster than the original, though with a reduced rate of climb. In April 1940, the Dutch Army Aviation Brigade, Luchtvaart Brigade, and I definitely butchered that, being desperate for modern combat aircraft, would place an order for 24 CW-21Bs from Curtiss-Wright. After the Battle of the Netherlands resulted in the Dutch army surrendering to the invading Germans on May 15, 1940, the order for the CW-21Bs, along with an order for a number of Curtiss Model 75 fighters and CW-22 trainers, would be transferred to the government of the Dutch East Indies for the Military Luchtvaart van het I'm not even going to bother. Roughly translates to a language that I won't butcher, Military Aviation of the Royal Netherlands East Indies Army, or MLKNIL for short. The 24 CW-21Bs would be assembled at Andir Airfield, Bandung, Java, in February 1941. The lightweight construction of the aircraft, however, would give rise to structural problems, resulting in several aircraft being grounded due to cracks in the undercarriage and still awaiting repairs when war would break out with Japan on December 8, 1941. The CW-21, with its light construction, radial engine, low wing loading, limited pilot protection, and lack of self-sealing fuel tanks, the CW-21B was the Allied fighter most like the Japanese Nakajima Ki-43 and Mitsubishi A6M20. While it had a superior rate of climb to either aircraft, its firepower was similar to the Ki-43 but worse than the cannon-armed A6M2. The Dutch East Indies Air Group 4 No. 2 Squadron would claim 4 aerial victories during the Netherlands East Indies campaign. The MLKNIL was overwhelmed by the sheer number of Japanese aircraft that most of its fighters would be soon lost to combat or destroyed on the ground. One unit of the CW-21B would be captured by the Japanese after the fall of the Dutch East Indies, and it would be used as a liaison aircraft. Japanese photos have also been found showing it at the Tachikawa Test Center branch in Singapore in excellent condition, along with a captured Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. Now, as for how the vehicle actually handles in game, the first thing I want to mention is that in game the CW-21 has self-sealing fuel tanks. However, according to all my sources, the aircraft did not actually have these in real life because they would have weighed more, and that would have negatively impacted the climb rate of the aircraft, would have negatively affected the performance of the aircraft, particularly the climb rate. Beyond that, let's go ahead and hop in. So, the armament on this aircraft is decent for where it sits at the, 2.0 battle rating? Or excuse me, 2.7 in the case of realistic battles, which is what I play and what is shown in the background. Like I said, it's decent. I'm not too big on the 7.62s. It's just, an issue I have. Anything less than 50 cals generally aren't really worth it. And you only have about 400 rounds of the 12.7mm M2 Browning machine guns. You do, however, have 1,000 rounds of the 7.62 Browning machine guns. So unless you get really lucky and pilot snipe people, you're maybe getting about 2 kills if you're lucky with the 50 cals. And for the 30 cals, you can probably eke out another 2 kills potentially, especially if you're actually any good at aiming. But still, it's not the best armament in my opinion. It is acceptable for the battle rating. It's just nothing to run home and praise. But of course, it's also not complete garbage like some things do. I'm looking at you, Britain, with your crappy 7.7mm machine guns. Those things are garbage, in my experience. You do have a really nice rate of climb in game in realistic battles, particularly when fully upgraded, of 18.2 meters a second. Your turn rate, however, is not the greatest at 14 seconds. If you want to do a full horizontal 360, if I recall correctly, is what turn time is meant for in game. So you're not going to want to rely on turning and, you know, dogfighting like that. You're going to want to rely on boom and zoom tactics, which I know might come as a surprise, considering that the aircraft before you is a Gladiator Mark 1. And your other options for reserves are the I-15 BIS, both of which are, particularly because they are biplanes, brilliant dogfighters. But you're not going to want to dogfight in this CW-21. The aircraft is just not designed for that. It really isn't. It is designed for boom and zoom tactics. You're going to want to play it in a fairly similar fashion to how you would often play a lot of German and American vehicles, especially. Because basically their entire tech tree, in the case of US and Germany, are boom and zoomers. So you climb up, dive down on your enemy, fire a couple of shots, you know, a burst or two into them. If you kill them, great. You can go ahead and try to start regaining some altitude. If you don't kill them, then you just go straight back to gaining altitude. You know, gain some distance, gain some altitude, and try again. However, with 50 cals at this battle rating, those will probably kill a lot of enemies, especially if they are new to the game, and so don't have a lot of crew skills that, you know, boost the vitality of their pilots to relatively ludicrous degrees. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about the aircraft. It's not great, it's not terrible. It is a acceptable 2.7 in realistic battles battle rating aircraft. I mean, I would say it is a fairly significant improvement over biplanes, generally speaking, because biplanes, their armaments aren't that great when you're fighting monoplanes with all metal constructions. But large parts of the Chinese, probably because large parts of your tech tree are Japanese, I, for some reason, jumped to saying Japanese. Large parts of your aircraft in the Chinese tree, in my opinion, aren't the greatest, particularly at the lower tiers. We'll be covering them, of course, as time goes on. However, I think next time we're going to be covering our first British aircraft in the form of the Fury. The Fury Mark 1 and Mark 2, because they're both in the game and they're both reserve aircraft, so it makes sense to go and cover them. After that, I think we'll go ahead and take a quick pit stop back to Italy. Some of you might be wondering why I haven't covered anything Swedish. It's just because I haven't really played much of Sweden's stuff. Like, I have basically nothing there. I've dabbled in them a little bit, but I haven't really sat down and played them much. But the little bit I have played of them, it hasn't been the most interesting, personally, but it's also been a little while, so maybe things are a little bit better now. But yeah, I just haven't really given much of a crap about Swedish stuff, but we'll eventually cover Swedish aircraft, just, you know, not right now. So I will see you all next time, like I said, where we will be covering our first British aircraft. Technically not the first British vehicle we have covered, but it is their first aircraft that we have covered. So I'll see you all next time. Until then, quick reminder, they do have a Patreon and a Streamlabs. I do Those are the two best ways to help support the channel if you find yourself enjoying this content or any other content on the channel. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the channel, I do highly recommend that you join my Discord. You can find a link to that down below in the description as well. That will help you out, or that'll allow you to know what's going on with the channel, because anytime I want to make a post about changes to my recording schedule, streaming schedule, anything that will interfere with my ability to produce content on the channel, that is my go-to place for posting that type of stuff. Sometimes I'll remember to post elsewhere on other social media, but generally I don't. So if you want to know what's going on with the channel, do join the Discord. But I will see you all next time, like I said, where we will be covering the British Reserves, and I will see you all next time. Till then, bye and farewell.